What's going on YouTube? Snowflarky's Emos here with my next Master Duel deck profile. We're looking at Tengu Trap Control. This is a deck that I've kind of played around with in my duel group in person because I've had a playset of ultra rare Tengus that I always think really look nice, so I was trying to think of a way to kind of modern play them. And I found that once I discovered the Trap Control deck play style that, Tengu and his natural ability to float is pretty nice. So this is just something I kind of put together in Master Duel because I basically owned all these cards except the 3 Tengu. So figured I might as well try it. Let's take a look at what we're playing here. Starting off with our monsters, I am playing 3 copies of Reborn Tengu. Reborn Tengu is a monster with 1700 attack, Beast Warrior, level 4. If this face-up card leaves the field, special summon a Reborn Tengu from your deck. So pulls a Tengu out of the deck, doesn't matter how it leaves the field, if it goes back to your hand, if it gets banished, either way, Tengu comes out. So what's pretty nice about this deck is because we're playing lots of cards like Torrential Tribute to interrupt our opponent's turn and maybe wipe our own board, and our Tengu will just replace itself while their board will be wiped. And definitely something important to keep in mind. Next for monsters, I'm just playing 3 copies of Codebreaker 0 Day. This is an 1800 attack warrior monster, which is pretty cool, but it's got this effect that if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add a Codebreaker 0 Day from your deck to your hand. So again, if you wipe your board, it doesn't replace it on the board, but it puts it in your hand so that you'll be able to have a monster presence on the next turn, and that's pretty good. And that is it for our monsters. Next, going into the spell cards, we're playing 1 Reinforcement of the Army. Reinforcement of the Army just searches Codebreaker 0 Day, so it's basically another name of the monster. Next, we are playing 3 Card of Demise. Yes, this is a Demise Stun style deck, so we're definitely going to take advantage of the fact that Master Duel has 3 Card of Demise, and this does allow us to run an extremely small monster count, which is pretty cool. Card of Demise just draws cards until we have 3. Then our opponent doesn't take any damage, but during the end phase, we send our entire hand to the graveyard. Doesn't matter. Most things are spell and traps, so we're not missing out on too much. And you cannot special summon during the turn you activate this card, which usually doesn't matter. It does mean if your Tengu gets removed on your turn, you can't special summon into another one. So wait until you've maybe committed to the battle phase to decide whether you want a Card of Demise. You should do that anyway just to get damage, but definitely something to keep in mind. Next, we're playing 3 Pot of Duality. This is a trap card control deck, so, we want to be able to protect, we want to be able to get the right cards, protect our win cons, and with Pot of Duality, we can do that by excavating the top 3 cards of our deck. That can get us maybe the floodgate we need to be our win con, maybe our monster if we need to start attacking presence, maybe one of our mass board wipe cards if we want the disruption ready to go, just things like that. So Pot of Duality, very good. Next, we're playing 3 Pot of Extravagance, another deck of mine where we're not extra deck summoning. What a shocker, I know. But this card just allows us to turn our extra deck into card advantage. We banish 3 to 6 random face down cards from the extra deck, and if we draw 1 card for every 3 banished. So we banish 6, draw 2. Now we can't use any other draw effects, which means we can't use this and Demise on the same turn, but that's alright. We mostly just play these because we want to see them. Next, I'm playing a Fury of Karyushin. This is just a searcher for Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute is a crucial part of the trap control playstyle, so a card that just searches it is good. Next, we're playing 2 copies of Moon Mirror Shield. As you may notice, our monsters don't go above 1800 or 1700 in this, which means we can get walled by defense position monsters or just a monster they manage to summon with higher attack, and we don't destroy right away. And for that reason, we can play 2 copies of Moon Mirror Shield so that we can just attack over him. If Moon Mirror Shield just makes it so that our monster will always win a battle by at least 100 attack, by copying the attack and defense of our monster, whichever is higher that we're battling. And of course, if this face-up card is sent from the field to the graveyard, we pay 500 life points to put it on the top or bottom. So even if they're trying to destroy it, we can usually have it again by the time we need it. Next, I'm playing a copy of Mystical Space Typhoon. If I had a second copy of Heavy Storm Duster on this account, it would probably be it. But it just destroys a spell or trap card, something I find useful enough on Master Duel because in Master Duel there's a lot more spell and trap card based decks. Having removal is fine. Any better removal you have, Cosmic Cyclone, whichever, is probably better in the slot. Just up to you. I just didn't want to spend extra dust on it, and it's good enough for this. And that is it for my spell cards. Next, looking at our trap cards, I'm playing 2 copies of Fake Trap. This is a pretty cool card because when our trap cards would basically be destroyed by the effect of a spell, trap, or effect monster, we can destroy this card and substitute for those card or cards. And then, of course, if a set card would have been destroyed, we have to pick up and show that the set cards are traps. So it'll reveal what your back row is, but if your opponent's going to Harpy's Feather Duster, then you can use Fake Trap to protect your whole board, which is pretty important. And at a rare slot, this is a good budget option. This is normally where I'd play something like Waking the Dragon or something like that, but Fake Trap is pretty good, especially because other than Moon Mirror Shield, anything that's sitting on our field still on our opponent's turn is going to be a trap card, so it'll protect everything we need to. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Torrential Tribute. When a monster is summoned, destroy all monsters on the field. This is a very good card, kind of the backbone of this deck. Your opponent summons some monsters trying to make a combo. Before they can extra deck summon, you just board wipe their board with Torrential Tribute. Very nice, too, with our copies of Summon Limit, because they summon 2 monsters. We play Torrential Tribute, we chain Summon Limit, then their monsters are wiped, their board is open, and of course, they've already summoned twice, so they're not going to be able to summon anymore. Next, we're playing a Jar of Avarice. With our low monster count and our constantly wiping our board, we can't eat through all our monsters, and we need to make sure we have monsters to win. So, Jar of Avarice kind of allows us to reload them all back into the deck. Now, you could play Pot of Avarice in the spot, but it does conflict with Pot of Extravagance if you can't use both on the same turn. So I like Jar of Avarice because I can flip it during the end of my opponent's turn. And I also like Jar of Avarice because while you're only drawing 1 card, you can also target cards that are not just monsters. So, you know, if all your Tengus are gone, you haven't gone through the 0 days yet, you can send all your Tengus back and then maybe some spell or trap cards too. And I like that recyclability. One of the reasons I also built this deck is because I really like the secret rare artwork of this in the TCG that I have 2 of. And I was like, oh, it actually has a use in this deck. So, Jar of Avarice, pretty cool to have. Next, a copy of Heavy Storm Duster. Target up to 2 spell or trap cards on the field. Destroy them. You cannot conduct your battle phase during the turn you activate this card. Pretty cool card. Lots more back row and trap cards in Master Duel than in TCG. So Heavy Storm Duster puts in a lot of work. You have it set. Your opponent sets some cards. You pop 2 of them. Very nicely done. Next, we're playing 2 copies of Blind Obliteration. This card is almost just more copies of Torrential Tribute, except you don't even have to respond to a summon, so it kind of gives its own use. What it does is it rolls a 6-sided die twice, and you destroy all face-up monsters with levels or ranks lower than the total roll. So pretty cool. Usually when your opponent's comboing before they would combo into an extra deck monsters, a lot of monsters that are being summoned are level 4 or lower. And it's pretty easy to definitely roll higher than a 4 if you're rolling 2 die with Blind Obliteration. I mean, on average, it's like a 7. So most of the time, you're just wiping a board again, and that's worth it, even in the times that there are duds. You can strategically play this when you see a field of monsters that are very likely to be done. It's kind of like Snipe Hunter. It has some variants that sometimes burn you, but most of the time, it's just more copies of Torrential Tribute. And especially at the rare slot, means it doesn't take extra dust. I really am enjoying this card lately in this deck. Pretty good option. Again, in any deck where you're considering this, definitely I would say make sure you've maxed out on Torrential Tribute and say to yourself, I need more Torrential Tributes. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. This is just our no button. We pay half our life. And of course, we negate the summon of a monster or a spell and trap card's activation. If we have our game-winning floodgates set up, we don't want to lose those, so we're mostly using Solemn Judgment to set that up. If we have a whole bunch of back row that's going to get wiped and we don't have Fake Trap, we have Solemn Judgment to say no to that. So just our way to protect our fragile win cons, and you got to do that in a deck like this. Next, I'm playing a copy of Solemn Warning and Solemn Strike. I would normally be playing 2 Solemn Strike, but I haven't got a second strike yet, and Warning's still pretty good. When a monster would be summoned or when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated, that includes an effect that special summons a monster, pay 2,000 life points, negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy it. So that's pretty cool. Just negates a summon for 2,000 life. We're all right with that. And Solemn Strike, of course, negates a special summon or a monster effect being activated for 1,500 life points. So pretty cool. Good options to have. You know, just stop our opponent from plays, keep their board open. We want to attack them directly. Next, we're playing 2 copies of Skill Drain. All our monsters effects that we care about are effects that activate in the grave, so we don't mind if we negate all the effects of face-up monsters on the field. And against a lot of decks, this will just win you the game. So we're going to take advantage of that win con. It is definitely one of the ways this game wins. One of the other ways this deck wins is summon limit. Neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. Usually not something you're going to have to worry about. You're normally either summoning once, at most twice. I mean, theoretically, if you have a Tengu on the field, you can summon 2 other Tengus, and that's as far as you'll get. So, summon limit does not disrupt you there, but it does disrupt opponents, especially if you just torrentialed or blind obliterated their monsters after summon limit is activated. Now their field is wide open for you to attack directly, get that damage in, very good. And next, we're playing 2 copies of There Can Be Only One. Tengu is a Beast Warrior, and Codebreaker 0 Day is a Warrior, so they're both 2 different types, so you can have each of these on the field. And Tengu, when it activates its effect, is already going to be gone from the field, so it's not going to disrupt Tengu summoning another Tengu. And of course, Codebreaker 0 Day, when it's destroyed, adds another to your hand, and that Codebreaker 0 Day will have been gone to give you that other Codebreaker. So yeah, this doesn't disrupt us too much, and There Can Only Be One is another card that is so powerful that against a lot of decks, it can just outright win the game. And basically, these 6 cards are our win con, and these monsters are just here so that we constantly have a monster on board to poke down our opponent once we've gotten them open. So that is it for the main deck. Not going to talk too much about the extra deck here because you really don't go into it. You could make a 4 with Tengu and Codebreaker, both being a 4. But it's mostly just here to be extravagance fodder. If you got Waking the Dragon targets like Last Warrior and Waking the Dragon, you can consider playing that over Fake Trap if you want that kind of blowout win card. Something to consider. I don't have Waking the Dragon invested in on my alt account here, so my extra deck is mostly just filler, just whatever I could shove in it. But do keep in mind, yeah, Waking the Dragon targets, anything you can make with the level 4 is probably better than, just running things you can't summon. But extra deck mostly here to be extravagance fodder. So, a little bit of the deck in action. We are playing against a Zombie World Doom King Balderoach control style deck. It's with our starting hand, it's alright. Not great though. Seeing 2 of the monsters is usually something we don't want to see. Moon Mirror Shield is nice since we're going second in case we have to attack over something that we can't out. And of course, Heavy Storm Duster and Blind. Alright, this could be better served, but it serves well in this matchup because it's Zombie World, so let's see it in action. Our opponent starts by playing Terraforming. They're going to use it to add a copy of Zombie World. Zombie World then gets played. They then activate a second Zombie World, which is a little puzzling until I see them drop the Gozuki and Card of Demise. They're just trying to get it out of their hands so they can draw more trap cards. That's fine. They draw 2 cards. They set 1 card. They're going to send Glow Up Bloom to the grave. Glow Up Bloom will then banish itself, getting Doom King Balderoach. Now this is good because Card of Demise at the end of the turn is going to discard the whole hand into the grave, and that will allow them to have Balderoach. They didn't pass on that. Unfortunately, their Card of Demise didn't do too well for them. It got them a second Balderoach, which is not the worst, and an Ash Blossom, which is going to be in much use. I definitely know they were fishing for more trap cards. So at this point, they're going to end the standby phase, special summon Doom King Balderoach. Kind of a problem because our Tengus and Codebreaker 0 Days will be zombies in the graveyard, which means they can negate their effect. So I'm just going to summon Tengu, Moon Mirror Shield, and remove this Doom King Balderoach, especially because I have the follow-up Heavy Storm Duster to pop Zombie World and the other card. So we're going to remove Doom King Balderoach. We're going to set our cards. We're going to pass turn. Now during the draw phase, we are going to activate Heavy Storm Duster because we want Zombie World gone before they can activate Balderoach. Now they're going to chain. Super Polymerization, discarding their 3rd copy of Zombie World to get rid of our Gozuki and Tengu. Probably a big misplay. I think I would have kept the Zombie World and just keep floating the Balderoach. Now in theory they can't really do much with it because with Moon Mirror Shield I can't out it, so I kind of get it. They're hoping Draco Nether Soul Dragon here sticks. It's not though, because Tengu is going to activate its effect. We're going to pull another Tengu out of the deck. Tengu, I'm going to Torrential Tribute because we got a 3rd Tengu to go into, so Tengu's coming back out. And our opponent scoops. They've been exhausted in their field, their hand, and their graveyard doesn't have anything they can access, so they just give up the game, go to the next one. So that's it in action. So that is it for my Tengu Trap Control deck profile. So yeah, pretty cool deck to utilize lots of traps, float lots of monsters, float some pretty cool monsters, which is pretty cool, and gives me an excuse to use Jar of Avarice, one of my favorite cards. So, just fun. Not great for climbing necessarily, but good enough to get you some wins. Utilizes really well these floodgates to stop opponents from playing and allow you to win some matchups. And makes it makes it fun to have, especially since I had most of these cards and a playset of Tengu, and I like Tengu, so worth the dust in my opinion. So thanks for checking it out. I appreciate watching the video. I'll catch you all in the next one.